She cooking them? He poisoned? What's going on? Oh man, what in the world is this show coming to? This is getting serious for real though. What is with these episodes of this show? It keeps getting crazier and crazier with each episode. They keep dropping all these bombshells, one episode after another, that it's like, okay, all right, let's keep track of what's going on here. And then they're like, all right, hey, new episode, bam, another bombshell on you. So it's like, Lord, trying to see what's happening. And there's just so much is happening between Shinmei, Maomao, Siren, Shisui, like everyone's lives are being interconnected at this moment in time. Not to mention, we learned that Jinshi's forces are on the move. They're coming, they're almost there. Of course, a lot of people are starting to kind of panic, like in the fortress, like, oh man, they know. Everyone knows, and they're manufacturing gunpowder. And Maomao's like, they're making gunpowder right under my lab here. There's fire down there as well. That is an accident waiting to happen. Well, not when it's actually made to happen by Shisui herself, or Lao Lan, whichever name you want to keep. Well, let's dive into this, because there's actually a lot to unpack here in this one episode that I think is a lot more than what people may naturally think when they see this episode. But yeah, we gotta get into this. You know, I was right there. I mean, I was so close to forgive Shisui and Siren for basically what they have done, especially after we've seen how they were treated so harshly by Lady Shinmei. It's like, okay, all right, you know what? They've had a rough life. Okay, I can kind of understand why they're like this. Especially Sirei, who's been treated so harshly, gets smacked around all the time. That, you know, of course, I can understand all the things that happened in the first season, why she acted the way she did by the results of this season. It's like, okay, I'm ready to forgive her. Until the very end, when Shisui opens the door and it's like, hey, by the way, I poisoned all these children. What are you doing? Now, granted, I understand. She's looking at the aspect that, you know, Jinshi's forces are coming. They're about to put down this rebellion. So naturally, it's like, okay, anyone that's part of this rebellion, we need to cut them off, kill them, so then that way no further rebellions can arise. And of course, in those times, yes, that also meant that they would kill off children as well. So she's thinking that she's just trying to do a mercy killing, if you will. If I poison them, they can, you know, drift slowly and softly, you know, drinking the juice. They don't really taste the poison. And then, you know, they can just go to sleep. So I understand what she was trying to do, but it's kind of like, no, come on, you don't have to do that. Now, we know naturally how Jinshi is, and I would fail to believe that Jinshi would put down children, regardless if they were part of a rebel force, as well as Maomao being there to vouch for them. But not everyone could come from that mentality. So of course, Shisui was trying to do what she thought would be best. Now, granted, I personally believe that it's still early enough for Maomao to save them, because it seemed like it happened recently. I believe that Maomao has the possibility to make antidote, create an antidote, whatever. Even if she already has the antidote, that she's able to reverse their effects and they can be good. I'm hoping, you know, but the way that they just kind of cut it off is like, dang it, we won't know until next week's episode. So hopefully by next week, we can see Maomao spring into action and maybe save them, and also explains why Shisui kind of brought Maomao to that room. When Maomao had to decide what to call her, like Shisui or Lao Lan, and she went with Shisui, you could see how her face lit up, kind of like the last thing right before she opens the door. And Maomao was like, had to hold herself back from striking her. It's like, So hopefully Maomao can work quick enough, save the kids, because they're kids. That shouldn't be the fate that befalls them. Now, I know I've gone off on how great a main character MC Maomao is, and it's just moments like this in this episode that there was so much happening in Maomao that there's so much character to her. Not even character growth. Like we could just go a whole new tangent of her character growth and learning new things. How she was living with Laomin and grew up learning after him and then gets into the palace and grows there. Like there's so much we can just break off and talk about, but that would take way too long. Maomao as a character in this episode, she could have just sat back and done nothing. When Lady Shimei was going off and about to punish the random guard 55 and also Sirei, that she just could have sat back and done nothing. But we know, we've seen those glimpses of episodes of when Maomao gets mad, gets seriously mad. She does the things that she technically shouldn't do. And this time was no different than the others. Now, granted, she couldn't backhand someone like she did so many episodes ago because of the whole poison thing, but she calling Lady Shimei a hag, oh man, everyone was like, what? And even Bob on her own head is like, man, what am I doing? But no, her doing such things is what gains her friends. Like the guard himself, when she's in the torture chamber, the guard himself, after knowing what she did and also being bribed, if you will, went to go try to save Maomao, but there was no need for saving because only Maomao would survive the Taibon, which of course is what made Sirei fearful for snakes and all those different things. Because, I thought she'd naturally just be afraid of snakes, no big deal. But knowing that she went through that same torture where she's in a closed room and poisonous insects and snakes are coming after her and having to be in that room, I was like, oh, dang, that is pretty rough. Shisui knew that Maomao would be okay. It's like, oh, it's a torture chamber of poisonous things. Nah, Maomao's like, oh, is that it? And how she's like donning both hairpins like daggers, and it's like, yeah, it's not oh, I'm trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. And how she kills all the insects and then eats the snakes. Oh man, I was like, yeah, she's fine. She's cool. Even the guard's like, why did I even come here? It's like, what am I doing here? And dude's like, yeah, you know what? I'm gone. I'm getting out of here. The forces are coming. You need to get out too. I'm gone. But it just shows you how much of a heart this random guard has, because he could have just dipped like he intended and tried to escape, join Jinshi's forces, probably beg for his life, or just be like, hey, actually, I abandoned them. And, there's many things that could have happened there. But he saw the explosion of the gunpowder and then just goes back to try to save. And hopefully he doesn't die. I mean, we've only seen this guy in this one episode, but it's already shown his heart that he even went back to try to save Maomao when he didn't have to. And then also give Maomao warnings of like, look, forces are coming, you need to dip. Here's how you can escape from here, and you don't have to worry about anything. And he was ready to sacrifice it all to save Maomao. And then he comes back to try to save them from the gunpowder. So hopefully when the forces come, he doesn't, take a hit. He can actually be maybe the one that escorts Maomao to Jinshi maybe. And then that way he's saved. I don't know. But I will have to say this random guard 55, which is what I'm just calling him, is kind of a character. So I'm enjoying, I like his character. Now, the good thing is in all of this, Maomao learns of Sirei's royal blood heritage. Now, previously we've been stating that yes, Sirei is the daughter of the emperor, but come to find out, she's actually the granddaughter of the emperor. So she's not like the direct descendant, but she's just like hop, skip, jump over. And it's like, okay, I didn't realize that there was a whole nother generation in between, which makes sense because of how long things have been happening. And I could kind of understand why Lady Shinmei is so embarrassed, because think of it like this. She left and was one of the main concubines for the emperor. We know the emperor, how he doesn't like older women, so essentially brushes her off. So that in itself is going to be something that she is going to have a chip on her shoulder for. And two, the emperor touches her attendant, Tai Hao, which of course was the younger attendant, and thus creates a baby girl, and then that girl runs off with one of the physicians, okay? And then they are the ones that create Surei. And then of course, imagine Lady Shinmei's surprise when she comes back after having been the concubine, after having been ignored by the emperor. She comes back, and then the granddaughter of her attendant is being brought in by her husband, if you will. And it's like, excuse me? That is why she's saying that she's being humiliated for multiple generations. She definitely has a chip on her shoulder, and of course is breaking fans off on people's faces because of all that she has gone through. And that's the reason why she royally hates Surei, who's basically her adoptive daughter. And that's why Shisui sees them as sisters, because she's technically like an adopted daughter, and they technically are being raised together. And of course, you gotta feel sorry for Shisui, because Shisui's life is literally nothing. She was manufactured, literally manufactured and made just to be revenge against the royal family, to be dolled up, raised up, and as her mother said, oh, she's going to be the royal mother of, you know, what is going to happen in the future after they win this war, which is definitely not happening. That explains why Shisui was eating that lantern plant that was poisonous and didn't taste good. Because Maomao's like, why are you eating something, chewing on something that is one, poisonous and doesn't even taste good to begin with? You know, it's like, it's one thing if it tasted good, you know, it's just like, whatever. But it's like bad on both ends. Like, no one would put this in your mouth, because Shisui didn't value her life. She never cared about who she was, because she's been nothing. So when she had that time with Maomao, that probably was one of the first times she could feel alive, that her life meant something. But of course, she had to sneak around and be Lalan in the meantime of things. So I do partly feel sorry for Shisui and Suren, but like I said before, how could I forgive her for, it's like, I'm right there be like, man, you guys had it rough, I feel sorry for you. And then she poisons kids, and it's like, come on, why do you keep going from one point to another? But yeah, this episode was pretty crazy, and it looks like next week's episode is going to be even crazier, because it looks like a battle's going to start. But that also means I gotta let you guys know, for those that were unaware, the schedule dropped for Apothecary Diaries, and it looks like we have another bye week, if you will. So of course, today, June 6th, was episode 21, and it looks like next week, episode 22, is going to be happening, but June 20th they're going to skip a week. So no episode 23 on June 20th. So it's going to pick back up a week after that. On June 27th, we'll get episode 24, and then 4th of July, July 4th, we'll get the season 2 finale, which is episode 24. So it's unfortunate we'll have another week that is going to be no episode. So that sucks, but next week's episode is going to be happening on the episode 22 is going to be happening next week. So at least we look forward to that. Just a week after that, I'm going to be very sad. overall, these last episodes have been so good. And I imagine the last few episodes are going to be even better as everything ties together. So much so that I cannot wait to see how they're going to wrap this up at the end of season 2. And hopefully there'll be a season 3. I don't know if there is or not. I don't know if there's, a lot more content. But it doesn't, even though they're solving a lot of these mysteries, I don't want this to end on season 2. I definitely don't. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. But of course, please no spoilers. Great episode yet again. And I'm looking, oh man, next week is going to be even better as the battle commences. So we'll see how things turn out and see if Jinshi meets back up with Maomao. I look forward to it. Anyway, you guys be safe. Take care, Lord willing. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This ain't what you want, bitch. I'm a fucking phenomenon.